You're listening to Hotepish with your host. You're listening to Dwwann B. Intelligent ish talk, intelligent shit talk, where we balance the profound with the profane. Political satire, celebrity and expert guests, information and entertainment, conversation and solutions. Leave your feelings at the door.
Great to see y'all here live in the chat room as we talk a little shit. My favorite thing to do, shit talk. What's up, Grown Man Bars? What's up, Reshan? What's up, Wig Splitter? Goldie, Emmanuel, Legion of Nicks. What up, y'all? What up, T-Boss? Mr. Trey Day. Bud B, what up, man? Yeah, we about to talk some shit today. What's up, Bad Seed? What's up, Lee Faye? I think, is that Lee Faye or Lai Faye? I don't know how to pronounce that. Man, I should be able to pronounce it. Taking a weed break this week. Taking a break off the weed this week. Got a lot of shit to get accomplished and get done. Not saying that the reefer don't help, but you always never want to get reliant and dependent on anything other than water. Water is the only substance that you want to crave and always need. But outside of that, sometimes you got to sit the weed down for a little bit. But I'm sitting down this week and then pick it right back up on Sunday with the spring equinox. Gonna bring in spring right. Yes. Leafy. Okay, got you. Leafy eye. Leafy eye. Okay, got you. Like and share the video, please. What's up, poppin'? We about to talk some shit here today because, you know, I saw, oh, that's the In Cincinnati Straight logo. No, that's it. Let me put the right one up. There we go. There we go. Yeah, we are here. We are here. No brakes, all gas. Somebody said Trump is Adolf Hitler reincarnated. Somebody don't know American history too well. If you think Trump was the worst, that's the reason why I'm having this program today. Because y'all know I work with children, and I've always worked with children, one thing I've always said about our kids aren't stupid, they're just misinformed. And generally, not only are our children are we misinformed by the media, we as a people spread misinformation down. And that's something that's some shit we gotta stop. Because us as black people, now let me bring some context here. I'm going to talk about this in two ways. I'm going to talk about these presidents in the context of the greater good of America, and these presidents in the context of Black America. For the most part, I'm going to be speaking on them in the context of how they affected Black America. Because I'm a Black American. I trace my lineage back here on paper. It goes before this, but on paper, I can trace my lineage back here to 1660. That's just on paper. Because the native black people that they married into didn't have any record, at least European record from the United States. So I can go way back before 1660. But I can show you my Potawatomi 17 times great grandmother in 1660. So I am concerned. Thank you for the Cash App Tyrus Ward. I'm talking about this from the context of being a foundational Black American, a descendant of those who built this nation. How these presidents affect us and always have affected us. That's the context in which this broadcast is coming from. So let's go ahead and get into it. Let's go ahead and get into it. First off, I thank y'all for watching my broadcast yesterday on, when I was talking about the Grammys. I ruffled a little feathers when I was talking about LeBron James to some people. Let me tell you from the bottom of my heart, I don't give a fuck. So if you're one of those grown men who get personally affected and offended at what somebody else said about a grown man you don't know, let me just tell you right now, no matter how you feel about it, I looked in my pockets. I looked in my bank account. I looked in my drawers. Nigga, I looked in my closet pockets and my jackets. I looked under my bed. I even picked the couch up and I looked under the couch. And no matter where I looked, I could not find one fuck to give about your feelings. Okay? So let's start off with that. If what I say hurts you in any way, I ain't the one to complain to, because if you voice it and bring up your dissension to me and how much I hurt you and how much it made you feel bad that I talked about one of your idols, I'm going to talk about you more, and I'm going to make you feel even worse. I promise you. I'm probably going to talk about you, your mama, anybody else precious to you, if you come to me with some bullshit about how I offended you about somebody you don't know. See, look, somebody just put a thumbs down. See? Somebody was in the comments talking about something. Man, Kevin Love wasn't that good. The nigga was dropping 50 and 30 the season before he came. Stop it. I really look. I'm telling y'all right now. I looked. I had this one dude inbox me on Instagram. I don't know your name because I don't know the dude's name. I don't remember it. Doesn't matter. But somebody inboxed me on Instagram and they were talking to me about how, but still, such and such is an icon to the kids. I'm like, well, if that person is an icon to your kids, keep those crumb snatchers far from me. Shit, I don't want to run across your kids if you're looking up at these people on TV and making them if you're putting TV and people on TV you don't know You having your kids look up to them and not you. Keep that little bastard far from me. Shit. Cause I remember I was in people don't know, like, y'all be knowing me from this little, not from little, but from my show, from here, from spreading information. What people don't know about me is, hell, as a matter of fact, I was in Cleveland the year before Kevin Love came, when Kyrie was a rookie. I was out there in Cleveland, and I got to see what that team was before and what it was after. As a matter of fact, I was in Minnesota when Kevin Love was in his second season. I had players I coached that played for the Timberwolves, so I got to be around these guys. So my perspective and how I see these NBA players and how they affect people, it doesn't come from someone who sat back and watched ESPN and came up with these conclusions. No, it comes from someone who sat down and had conversations with Tyronn Lue, Coach Lue. It comes from the perspective of people who play on the teams with LeBron and all these guys, and how the teammates talk about these cats, and how that's different than the narrative that's repeated. And that's a kind of an ongoing theme that I have on this show. I like to break down the difference between reality and narrative and reality. And the reason why I do that is because when it comes to narrative, black people are generally on the short end of the stick when it comes to narrative versus reality versus what's really going on. And I don't like that. I don't like that. So whatever I'm talking about, whether it be sports, politics, your favorite rappers, Jay-Z, Beyonce, whatever, Eminem, Michael Jordan, whatever narratives people have out there about people, I'm always going to attack the narrative. Because narrative and truth are often incongruent lines. Like what we're talking about here. You're right, Ivor Love was more efficient. Like when you play with somebody like a LeBron James, people forget it's only one basketball. So if one guy is getting all the triple doubles, guess what? That means the other guys don't have opportunities to control their numbers and their stats. LeBron, when you play with LeBron James, basically he turns you from a dope power forward who's making Olympic teams and going to the All-Star games every year. He takes you off the block and makes you basically sit in the corner and shoot threes. He did that to Antoine Jamison. He did that to Chris Bosh. He did that to Kevin Love. It's not as if those players were any less effective. It's just that their roles were changed based on what's required to be a teammate of LeBron James. That's all. And then people be like, man, go look at the numbers. First of all, let me tell y'all something right now. For the people, no, the Minnesota office was not built off of Kevin Love. No, it wasn't. And that's a mistake. It should have been built off Kevin Love. The mistake Kurt Rambis made was he tried to run the fucking triangle with Kevin Love. And that was messing Kevin Love up. He was running the offense actually through Al Jefferson. And Kevin Love still balled. I know because I was there. If you ask, I literally was in the gym at practice. All right? I'm not some old random ass nigga. It's just that when it comes to basketball, that was a time of my life. I don't really coach basketball and do it like that anymore. And the primary reason why I don't coach basketball and do all that anymore is because I saw what it took to get a player from AAU to Division I basketball to the NBA. I know what it takes. And when I saw how much work it took to really get someone to the NBA just to sit on the end of the bench, not even start, the 10 hours a day that these cats put in an off season to make it, I said, damn, if black children literally dedicated 1/4 of the time towards any kind of subject, any kind of profession other than the NBA, we'll be even wealthier. We'll be even better positioned, because to make the NBA, you got to put up at least 1,000 jump shots a day. At least. You got to spend like another 2 hours a day working on strength and conditioning. You got to spend another hour and a half a day just working on drills, 2 hours, drills, footwork, passing, Do you know Kobe? One of my friends was an assistant coach with the Lakers when the Lakers were winning that second set of championships with Pau Gasol. And he would tell me that Kobe would be in the gym the scheduled time would be 5 a.m. for the workout. But Kobe got there an hour before the gym, before the workout, just doing basic fundamentals, defensive slides, passing drills, shooting drills, and things like that. And then I would see how much these bench warmers put in. These bench warmers would put in like 6 hours a day. And I'm like, man, what if our kids put in 3 hours a day to their engineering books, to being mathematicians, to being scientists, to being plumbers, to being electricians? Think about how great of a society we can build in one generation if all the kids playing basketball today dedicated the same amount of time that it takes to play Division II basketball or Division III. Because I would have some of my kids who were playing like NAIAA in Division II. Those were still, you have to dedicate at least 4 hours a day to your game to be a Division II player. All right? So when I saw all that, I was like, you know what? Why am I going to keep pushing kids towards the NBA? Even though I've gotten kids to the NBA, I have. I could pop my collar at that. Not too many niggas that talk basketball can say that. Especially you motherfuckers that be in the comment sections saying I don't know what I'm talking about. You point to the player you got to the NBA, then let's talk. But I saw what it took to get to the NBA, and I said, you know what, man? If we dedicated our time towards building ourselves and building things going towards tangible goals, if we spent half the time doing that, we ain't gotta worry about getting no job or white supremacy or unemployment. We built the shit ourselves. So let's just so again, that's my point of view. That's where I come from. I come from the point of view of somebody who's been there, done that. Jay Sanders, you might cross me in my J's. I don't hoop no more. I'm done. I had 2 knee surgeries. I'm done hooping. I've given the game 2 knees. Well, no, first knee surgery was from football. The second one was basketball. So let's get into what we're talking about today. We're talking about why Donald Trump wasn't so bad. We are breaking down the narrative of Trump being the worst thing to happen to America. And again, like I said, I'm speaking from the context of Black America. Why wasn't Trump so bad? Well, I'll tell you why. All Trump did was tweet. See, when it comes to the office of the presidency, or a senator, or a congressman, or anyone in politics, we have one connection to politicians. One. That connection is their policy. What do they write down on paper and sign into law? Because whatever they sign into law affects us all. Tweets are not legally binding. Let me say this one more time for the slow people in the back. Tweets are not legally binding. Getting on a podium and saying stand up and stand down, whatever the fuck you said, that's not legally binding. Calling something the China virus isn't legally binding. That's just some idiot splurting out a bunch of words. And I kind of missed that too. I used to wake up, go on Twitter just to see what this dumb motherfucker Trump said today. That shit was funny as hell. A politician's connection to the people is the policy that they sign into law. Okay? Can you point to me the policies that Trump signed into law that disproportionately harm and hurt Black Americans? Let's think about that. Again, can we name a law that Donald Trump signed that will disproportionately harm Black Americans? Can we? Now, we know Trump's tax plan was all fucked up. That's going to hurt the overall well-being of the country in the long term because you're bringing in less tax revenue. Unless Biden does something to reverse that, and I think he probably will. But even that tax plan that Trump signed, for those who are politically astute and actually paid attention to the two elections outside of Trump, you'll see that when Mitt Romney and Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan, when they ran in 2012, they ran on the exact same tax plan that Donald Trump ended up signing. Same thing with McCain and Palin in 2008. It's the same tax plan that the Republicans had set up. Basically just a hoe to the businesses and to industry, to certain industries here in America. But he didn't do anything to hurt us. I'm going to go down the line and I'm going to list some of the things past presidents signed into law that disproportionately harmed Black Americans and also hurt the country overall. I'm going to start with these three jackasses I have here on screen, Reagan, Clinton, and Bush. But it's more. Let's start out with Bush. Bush 2. How can Trump be the worst president when we remember George Bush? Do we forget that September 11th, 9/11 happened on Bush's watch? Did we forget that? Did we forget that? Did we forget that this shit here happened on Bush's watch right here? And then when 9/11 happened, not only did that happen, y'all remember watching that movie Fahrenheit 9/11 when he was told them planes hit the building. He didn't move. He didn't do anything. He kept there. He sat there and kept reading children's books to kids when the country, quote unquote, was under attack. I say quote unquote because we all have our theories as to who pulled off 9/11. I'm not going to get too much into that. But we all for the most part know. We all for the most part know whatever the fuck happened, it wasn't what the fuck they taught us. What they said. And on top of that, after we had 9/11, what happened? The fucking Patriot Act. I don't know if y'all remember I don't know if y'all remember what life was like before the Patriot Act. But before the Patriot Act, you could actually, flying was fun. You can get to the airport 20 minutes before your flight. And still make your flight. Before the Patriot Act, you could deposit as much cash as you wanted into your bank account. And the government wasn't all up in your shit. Remember that? The Patriot Act changed. It really did. The Patriot Act really changed how we function in this country. All of this, what's this ID thing we have now? This digital ID, all this shit, all that was signed in the Patriot Act. It was the Patriot Act that erupted mass surveillance. I'm speaking in the context of the country as a whole right now, not even just Black America, but in the context of the country as a whole. The Patriot Act really fucked us up. It really fucked us up. Mass surveillance is literally at a level that really is unconstitutional right now. And everybody's favorite boy, President Obama, had a chance to stop the Patriot Act and to let the Patriot Act expire. But he didn't. He didn't. He didn't. And then there was, with Bush, his tax cuts. Under Bush, his tax cuts sent more money to the top. And he turned a blind eye to all of those predatory loans that were being lent out under his presidency, which happened because of a law signed by Clinton. And it fucked us up. For real, for real. Can you name anything that Trump signed or did that's equivalent to the Patriot Act? And what the Patriot Act did to Americans? See, what we're talking about here are actual tangible changes that happened that permanently affected the way life is lived here in America. Let's go back to Bill Clinton. Man. Let's go back to Bill Clinton. And how Bill Clinton, I want people to remember this, like, because there's a lot of young people that listen to me. And Bill Clinton permanently changed how Democrats run. He permanently changed the Democratic Party. Under Clinton, the Democrats became more like moderate Republicans. Because from 1980 to 1992, the Republicans were kicking the Democrats' asses in national office. They got Nixon in there. He got out. The Democrats got Carter for 4 years. And then Reagan came in running on tough against crime. And tough against crime basically means tough on the Negroes. That's a code word. Tough on crime means tough on black people. Reagan ran on that. So did Bush. So in order for the Democrats to swing the election back their way, they had to get on those white supremacist talking points. Tough on crime. That, whatever the fuck that means. So Clinton, in order to win election as a Democrat, said, okay, I'm going to have to run on that tough on crime shit too. And he did. And this is a key moment that a lot of people missed when it came to Clinton winning the 92 election. You had two things going on. You had Ross Perot running, so that took away a lot of the votes from Bush because it split the Bush vote. Part of the reason why Ross Perot split the Bush vote was because back in 1992, this is history for you niggas, take notes. Back in 1992, we had the LA riots. And the conservative Republicans wanted Bush one to basically come down in LA. They wanted him to come. They wanted Bush to come and be tough on crime against the niggers. Bush said, first of all, one thing Bush did was he filed federal charges against those officers that beat up Rodney King. Something Obama bitch ass didn't do. People was like, what can Obama do? Obama's not the president. He couldn't do anything about Trayvon Martin, about Eric Garner, about Corinne Gaines, about Eric Garner, about Corinne Gaines. He couldn't do anything about Sandra Bland. And down the list. How come he couldn't do shit but Bush 1 could? Bush 1, he had his Department of Justice file federal charges against those officers that beat Rodney King after the LA riots. So the combination of him filing those federal charges and him not coming in with the National Guard and basically spraying all the niggas, shooting all the niggas to death, that cost him politically, because Bill Clinton basically ran on a platform of, hey, look, if he don't want to kill the niggas, I will. While coming to black people playing the saxophone in Arsenio, trying to show us how quote unquote black he was with his saxophone solos. He was telling the white folks in middle America, I'm gonna be tough on these Negroes. So Bush 1 actually paid a political cost by not sending the National Guard to LA sooner and the military. And he paid a political cost by filing federal charges on those police officers that violated Rodney King's civil rights. So Bill Clinton comes in. He runs on tough on crime. He gets elected. And what's the first thing that he does? Pushes for the 1993 crime bill. So Clinton goes to his boy, Joe Biden, the same Joe Biden who helped Strom Thurmond with his crack cocaine laws that made crack 100-to-1 sentencing over powder cocaine. That same Joe Biden who had a long record of writing anti-black legislation, Clinton asked him to write the 94 crime bill or 93 crime bill, and he did. And in that crime bill, Joe Biden wrote a provision called the Truth in Sentencing Act. And in that Truth in Sentencing Act, he gave states $13 billion to build prisons. In that Truth in Sentencing Act, he told states to mirror the new federal law. And the new federal law, which mirrored California's law of 3 strikes and gang injunctions, Clinton signed that federally. And if you look at the chart that I have here on screen right now, let me blow this chart up. Look at this chart. This is where the prisons were. 1980s when Reagan starts his bullshit, starts to go up. In 85, that right there, that 85, that reflects Joe Biden's law, the one that he signed with Strom Thurmond. That's this. And then we see at 95, look at this. This shit shoots up through the fucking roof. That's what Clinton did to us. And let me point something out while we're here. Joe Biden said that he's ending private prisons. Let me call out the red herring that is to begin with. Private prisons are not the problem. Private prisons are less than 8% of the people locked up right now are locked up in private prisons. State prisons and local jails are the problem. State-run prisons. Local jails because that's where they charge niggas, and like what they're doing with R. Kelly. That's where they'll charge you but not have a trial, just have you sit there and rot away without even pushing your trial to find out if you're guilty or innocent. The local jails are filled up with that. And state prisons. Do y'all know the game that state prisons run? Because you know when it comes to your electoral college votes, your prisoners are a part of that. So when you see people like places like Alabama, hell, California, the reason why California has so many goddamn electoral votes isn't just the populations, it's because there's so many goddamn people locked up here. And whatever county those prisons are in, whatever the people vote, those prisoners are counted in that vote. Did you know that? So when you look across these electoral maps and you see all these red counties throughout the middle of the country going red, it's because you may have had 300 or 400 people in that local town actually vote red. But those 5,000 people that are locked up, those votes go to whatever the people who are free voted for. So for all your cousins locked up in prisons, they're voting in the electoral college. And states trade prisoners. That's why you may have someone you know that's locked up. One day they hear, then they end up somewhere in a prison in Kansas or in Arkansas. Because these states behind our backs literally trade prisoners. Keeps the electoral map clean. Gang these niggas run on us. Game, game, game. So that happened. Under Clinton. That happened under Clinton. Again, show me where Donald Trump has done the equivalent, or even close. Damn how you feel about his tweets. Fuck your feelings. Fuck your feelings. Let me say that one more time. F-U-C-K, your feelings. We talking business here, people. We're talking about actual human lives that have been affected. Because not only, because when you send black men to prison for a drug, which is a disease, not a crime, that affects the children, that affects the women in the society, and that affects the society overall. It has a domino effect. And that's why we got so many bitch ass niggas running around here today. It's too many men that are now in their 30s, early 40s, late 20s, that grew up in a society that was devoid of real men. The only men in that environment were basically grown-up baby boys. Because the men were taken off of the streets because of gang injunction laws. One person commits a crime, but because 10 of you niggas is wearing the same shirt, all of y'all going to jail. I got a cousin in prison right now because of that. I have a cousin serving life right now. Somebody he knew robbed a bank, came back to the hood. My cousin didn't even know this nigga robbed the bank. Came back to the hood. The police caught that motherfucker back at the hood while everybody was kicking it. And everybody who was kicking it got arrested for that bank robbery. Because under California law, if someone committed a crime and you didn't report that crime to the police, you are implicated in that crime. So my cousin got 21 years from someone else robbing a bank. And then when he got locked up, some dudes tried him and he beat somebody's ass in prison, which I think he ended up killing a dude in prison who tried to kill him, which gave him life, and he's never going to get out of jail now. All because he's in prison over something he didn't do because Bill Clinton made that shit legal to do. But y'all want to talk about Trump. Get the fuck out of here. Y'all want to conflate that with Trump? Because Trump tweeted? You going to conflate people getting locked up in prison because they homeboy committed a crime for the rest of their life over a Trump tweet? The reason why I do these shows is because I love the children. We got to tell the children the truth. Black Americans have always been behind the line. We've always been behind the wall. We can't go around making them think that Trump is any kind of special thing. No. We've always had to deal with this shit. Trump wasn't nothing new for us. Let's go back even further. Let's go back to Reagan. Reagan ran on Tough Against Crime. And he also ran on Make America Great Again. People forget, Make America Great Again was Reagan's slogan that Trump took. And when he was saying Make America Great Again, he was basically saying Make America White Again. Which it was still white. But that's something that politicians have always been able to play on. They've always been able to play on the white fear of losing control of the Negro population. White politicians have always played on that. And Reagan was one of the best to do it. Ronald Reagan wrote, he's the person that really beefed up mass incarceration against black people. Under Ronald Reagan is when crack got introduced to the community. Somebody said, Trump was a racist piece of shit. What makes that any different than any of the other 45 presidents, you idiot? They're all racist pieces of shit. Including Obama. Bitch ass. We are telling the fucking truth here today. We're not going to sit here and put all of America's ills on Trump. No, the fuck we ain't. We think over here at Hotepish, intelligent ish talk, intelligent shit talk. This is intelligent ish talk. We talk truth here. We don't say things that sound convenient. We don't say things that are just popular to say. Oh, Trump's a racist. Yeah, he is. What makes that any different than Clinton? What makes that any different than Reagan? What makes that anything different than Nixon, Hoover, Rutherford B. Hayes, Lyndon Johnson, Calvin Coolidge? Oh, I'm going back on the presidents to say today, because one of my favorite subjects to study my whole life has always been the presidents. I've always had a particular interest in studying the presidents. So, DwannBrown, look, I'm going here at Hotepish, I'm going off the top of my head right here. That's how much I don't even have any notes right now. So if I get a date or two wrong, forgive me, because this is off the top of my head. I don't have any notes for you guys. Woodrow Wilson. What? Roosevelt. We about to talk about these fucking presidents today, nigga. Let's go into talking about keep on with Reagan, bitch ass. Reagan not only beefed up the war on drugs, he also brought crack into black neighborhoods. They couldn't finance the Contras down there in Central America. This is at a time that America was undermining Nicaragua, undermining Costa Rica, undermining El Salvador, Mexico, and those places, Colombia, undermining their economy with these false wars. But they couldn't go to Congress for the money, so they paid for that through crack. They flooded. This is a story. This is a story my dad told me. You ain't gonna hear this story nowhere else. This is a DwannBrown original about the drug. My dad did his thing back in the 70s. I'm not gonna say what he did, but my dad did his thing back in the 70s. All right, here in LA. And my dad always talked about how back in the 70s it was organized. When Tootie Reese ran LA, when Tootie Reese ran the drug game in LA, it was very organized during the 70s. You had your gangsters over there and your drug dealers over here. They were separate. Gangsters and drugs did not intersect during the 70s. When heroin was the thing on the street, when powder cocaine was the thing on the street, the gangs and the drugs didn't intersect. And Pops also told me that back then, everyone who was in the gang got a set amount of supply. Very organized, and Tootie Reese ran the drug game here in LA during the 1970s. During the 70s is also when they were creating crack at UCLA. Then sent up and put on the streets in Oakland. And then brought back down to LA in the early 80s. I remember my dad saying one day he looked up, he just couldn't get no supply nowhere. Couldn't get anything. And then he started noticing all these little young niggas on the streets, all the niggas that was sagging, all the niggas with Jerry curls into the gang shit. These motherfuckers out of nowhere started driving like Lamborghinis, buying Rolls Royces. Was a dusty, jobless, sorry punk motherfucker in 1978. By the time 1983 come around, them niggas buying 7 and 8 houses. And I remember Pop saying he didn't know what the fuck was going on. It's just that all the traditional lines of getting supply and traditional means just overnight stopped. And now the Crips and the Bloods, they're the ones getting the supply. That's how that shit happened here in LA. I'm talking firsthand shit, because I know a lot of these niggas too. From my time working on the streets. All of these things somebody said on Craig Facts, I kind of love. Look, man, on Craig Facts, I'm on Craig's show. I don't have time to say everything I feel. I say what I gotta say and get it out. I'm not coming around to anything. I've always felt this way. I'm not coming around to nothing. Let me make that very clear. I'm not coming around. I said the same shit about Trump before Trump even got elected. I said he ain't gonna be bad because I know what we've gone through as a people. When you know what you've gone through, you're not afraid of what's coming. That's why here at Hotepish, I talk about the past. Because when you have a fundamental understanding of the past, nothing that's coming down the pipeline can scare you or throw you off. But I remember my pop saying, out of nowhere, around 79, 80, 81, around the time I was born, he couldn't get shit. So Pops went all the way, legal. And he just left the game all the way completely. And I'm glad he did. And if you want further information on this, look up Oliver North. And Oliver North admitting to this. Thank you. Shouts out to Maxine Waters. The last great thing Maxine Waters did was get Oliver North to stand trial. Not stand trial, but admit to what he had done. Pumping out crack on the streets of LA. And that was all under Reagan. Reaganomics. Another thing Reagan did was he brought in that Reaganomics bullshit. Reaganomics was when Ronald Reagan said, we're going to cut taxes. And after we cut taxes and give the money to the rich, the wealthy are then going to trickle the money back down to everyone else. That never happened. The only thing trickling down now is Reagan's jizz on everybody's face that voted for him. Talk about fucking the country up. Do you know Reagan made it illegal to sue HMOs and medical companies? That's why now, part of the reason why with this COVID vaccine, the reason why they were able to pump these vaccines out and not be held legally responsible, because that's some shit that Reagan put into the mix. You can't sue insurance companies. You can't sue doctors. Reagan is the one that put it into the mix that allow these banks to now charge these absorbent, crazy ass fees. It was Reagan that made credit to where it is right now, where basically we're a country that lives off credit and not cash. That's Reaganomics that started that shit. We still affected by Reaganomics today. And you got adults running around telling kids that Trump was the worst. This is what we've had to deal with as a people. And we've overcome every time. We always goddamn overcome. And we got people talking about Trump is the worst. Sit the fuck down. Let's go back even further. Nixon. Do you know that Nixon, the reason why he even started the war on drugs was because he said it, according to Goldwater himself, Nixon would have called it the war on black people. But he couldn't call it the war on black people, so he called it the war on drugs. One, to stop black people's progression. Two, to stop the hippie movement. And they did. They implanted Charles Manson and basically all the former hippies that was smoking weed. See, that hippie movement is something black people can learn from. Because for all those niggas that like to invite their new white friend to the barbecue because that white friend likes hip hop, just go back and study the hippie movement. Back in the late 60s, the hippies liked black people too. They like Crosby, Still, and Nash, and they love Sly and Family Stone. Them hippies loved Funkadelic. The hippies loved smoking weed with their black friends. The hippies and the niggers got along really well. Then the minute Nixon created that war on drugs, which targeted the hippie movement and black people, those white hippies said, you know what? I'm done with this hippie shit. I'm going to get back on code with white society. Because I ain't about to go to jail over friendship with a couple niggers. And all them hippies that was hippie, free-loving, fun-loving, interracial sex, sniff all the cocaine you want, smoke all the weed you want with the Negroes, them motherfuckers became white and voted for Reagan a couple years later. So much for your little coalitions when people say, well, poor whites and poor blacks go through the same thing. No, the fuck we don't. Because poor whites have the option of getting on code. Taking a shower, cutting their hair, and going into white society. We don't. For all you niggas that want to be like, man, Eminem, he black just like, no, okay, go. Do that. Just stay the fuck far away from me. Learn your goddamn history. I ever said the Beatles were mind control garbage music. I agree 100% with that, brother. You're right, Shahar. I wish our people had the same energy for George Bush Jr. We still dealing with Kissinger. It was Kissinger that brought up this whole depopulation control. So depopulation agenda, I should say. And you wondering why they forcing vaccines and homosexuality on everybody. Kissinger told you that shit was coming back in 1972, 73. And y'all want to say Trump is the worst? Get the fuck out of here. Let's go back. Let's go back. Let's go back to the election of 1876. Tilden versus Rutherford B. Hayes. Tilden won that election on the numbers. He won Oregon. But Tilden was going to allow Reconstruction to keep going. So what Congress and the Supreme Court did was, okay, we'll compromise. We'll give the election to Rutherford B. Hayes as long as Hayes agrees to end Reconstruction. So in 1877, Rutherford B. Hayes takes office, pulls federal troops out of the South, and all the things that black people built after slavery got taken from us by force, while Rutherford B. Hayes turned a blind eye. Let's go to Teddy Roosevelt. Let's go to Teddy Roosevelt. When they were taking Puerto Rico, have you ever heard of the Rough Riders? Have you ever heard of the Rough Riders? No, not out of not the hip hop group out of Philadelphia. Not them. During the Spanish-American War of 1898, they give credit to Theodore Roosevelt's Rough Riders for taking San Juan over in Cuba. But it wasn't his Rough Riders that did it. It was the black soldiers. And when those black soldiers got here to America, Teddy Roosevelt turned his backs on them. It made all kinds of anti-black laws and legislation. Let's go to Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson was such a racist. This motherfucker was, look, here's another learning lesson. Woodrow Wilson was somebody that the black elite supported in his election. Wilson was somebody, Woodrow Wilson was the Bill Clinton of his day. It was Woodrow Wilson that said black people should never be managers over white people. So it was Woodrow Wilson that changed, that made, because segregation wasn't as bad as people make it seem. You had whites and blacks working together in the early 1900s. You had some black people working in federal office that were managers over white people in the early 1900s. It was Woodrow Wilson that came in and said, black people cannot be managers over white people. And all those black people lost their federal jobs when he became president because he didn't want black people to work in integrated places with white people. That was Woodrow Wilson that segregated shit. It wasn't always segregated after slavery. That was Wilson. It was Wilson that marched down into Haiti, killed their rice patches, took all their gold, and took that gold up where it now sits today in JP Morgan Bank in New York City. That was Woodrow Wilson. That was Woodrow Wilson that played the movie Birth of a Nation in the White House. Which gave new life to the Ku Klux Klan. Which encouraged white people to go around and burn down black towns all across the country. That was Woodrow Wilson. Let's talk about Warren G. Harding. Not Warren G. Regulators, not him, Warren G. Harding. I'm glad this punk motherfucker died in office. Because he further separated and took away, he finished what Woodrow Wilson couldn't, as far as the segregation and the inability for black people to work in America. We went through Calvin Coolidge. Let's go to President Roosevelt too. Do you know that when America signed the New Deal, you know, that's Social Security, minimum wage. Do you know the reason why why restaurant workers like waitresses and shit? Do you know why waitresses and also people that work in agriculture don't qualify for the minimum wage? It's because back in the early 1900s, black people were the primary wait staff. Black people were the ones doing agriculture. My grandfather, he told me he was a farmer. They called it a farmer. They were sharecropping back in Grace, Mississippi in the 1920s and 1930s. My grandfather turned 97 years old 2 weeks ago. And I sat down and had this conversation with him about how when he was farming on the farm back in Grace, Mississippi in the 1930s. He was on the farm when President Roosevelt signed the New Deal. But in order for the rest of the country to get minimum wage, an 8-hour work week, Social Security, it was specified in the New Deal that farm workers and people that work in the service industry did not qualify for the benefits in the New Deal. So when the rest of the country got a new minimum wage, when the rest of the country got suburban housing, black people didn't get none of that. And that was because of Roosevelt saying, okay, I'm going to give everybody, whatever industries black people are dominant in, will not get the protections under the New Deal. And so now you get people that's coming talking about something. Well, the Latinos, they work for nothing. Well, them motherfuckers, they volunteered to come. You don't get no extra credit because you chose to come. And I'm not, no shade on them either. I ain't got no issues with Latinos at all. I don't. But you're not going to come in and act as if you're doing something special. Basically, what you did was undermine the cost of labor. Because I was talking to my dad how back in the 1960s, he used to go up to Stockton with his cousins and pick cherries. There's black people on them fields in the 60s still. They were just demanding more money. And so since they were demanding more money, the United States said, I ain't giving you niggas shit. I'm going to import these people from the south of the border to work for what you niggas are ungrateful for. So no, you don't get an extra pass because you came here. No, you don't. Basically what you did was you undercut the cost of labor when you came. This is just real talk. This is not, no hate involved. I ain't got no issues with my Latino brothers and sisters at all. But I am going to tell the truth. You undercut the cost of labor. So that was your decision to come into this country and undercut the cost of labor instead of going back and rebuilding your country the way we rebuilt Black Wall Street, the way we've had to rebuild after Reconstruction, the way we had to rebuild after slavery, the way we had to continue to build and rebuild after Black Wall Street, Wilmington, Carolina, after we had to rebuild after Jim Crow. We didn't go nowhere where someone else built it and undercut their cost of labor so we can come up. We didn't do that. We stayed here and we rebuilt our shit. So don't tell me a goddamn thing about Donald Trump. Oh, y'all telling me GoofTube is over here messing up the stream? Oh, shit. That means I'm telling some real shit here. Eduardo Herbert Hoover wasn't shit. Again. This has no ill will towards Latinos or any immigrants. I am a man of love. I love people. I don't think anybody should have to suffer. My best friend is a guy who's Indian by way of Tanzania who moved here when he was 3. And he's a cop. An Indian, and then when I say Indian, I mean like from India. Like his parents moved to Tanzania back in the 70s when India was facing internal conflict. And he was born in Tanzania, moved to LA when he was 3. That's one of my best friends to this day. And he's a cop. So I know how to separate individuals from the system. And you should too. Know how to see the difference between the game being played and the pawns the game is being played with. We just have to know that those groups were brought here to be in competition with us. And we as black people, it's not our job to vote Democrat and make it easier for them to do that. Because when they get here, they ain't making it easier on us. So if they get something, they get it. But we as black people shouldn't be the ones helping them out with our vote, because the country uses them as pawns to further put us on the bottom of the socioeconomic status. I see people in the chat room talking about appraisers. Yeah, we do need more black appraisers, but that still doesn't even matter. I used to work in lending. It doesn't matter what color the appraiser is, because what'll happen is when the bank gets the loan, when they get the file, they'll see the appraiser put it at a certain value, and then the bank will be like, I don't like this value. We're going to send our own appraisers out. That's how banks get around that. I used to work with a lot of when I worked mortgage, I worked with black appraisers and black escrow companies. I submit a file. It'll come in at a certain valuation. The bank or the lender will be like, I don't like that valuation. We're going to send our own appraiser out, which always was a white guy. And then the bank will go on the value of their own appraiser. And the value of their own appraiser will supersede whatever the black appraiser or the appraiser that the loan office sent out originally. That's how the game gets played from behind the scenes. Keenan brought up Dwight Eisenhower, who was black, by the way. If we take the one drop rule, Eisenhower was black. Oh, Dwan, you tripping. What you mean Eisenhower was black? Let me put up a picture here for you. Let me put up a picture for you, and you tell me. First of all, ain't too many white boys named Dwight. That's a nigga name. Here's a picture of Dwight Eisenhower's brother from his mother. That's Dwight Eisenhower's brother on his mom's side. Now let me put this picture of Dwight Eisenhower's mother. Look at this picture of Eisenhower's mother. Y'all see that kinky ass hair? Y'all see that big ass nose? That's Dwight Eisenhower's mother. Get the book by J.A. Rogers, The Five Negro Presidents. But him having black lineage didn't mean shit, because what did Eisenhower do when he got in office? He signed the Highway Act. And what did the Highway Act do? Basically destroyed every black neighborhood in the country. They made sure to run those highways through black neighborhoods. My grandfather still lives to this day. He remembers seeing the 110 freeway be built through his neighborhood. When my grandparents were, I grew up here in South Central, and where they have the 110 freeway, we literally can see the 110 freeway at the end of my grandfather's block. He remembers that freeway being built and all of the economic progress and all of the dope shit that was going on Broadway here in Los Angeles. Not Central Ave. Some people say it destroyed Central Ave. No, the 110 freeway did not destroy Central Ave. Let me prove it to you. It destroyed, the Highway Act destroyed Broadway. And Broadway was a booming, bustling business area. Let me take y'all to the map. Y'all know me. I love taking y'all to the map, so y'all can get a picture of what I'm talking about. Here we are here in South Central LA. Boom.
Historic South Central. Alameda, where Black America was confined to during that time, before the 110 freeway was built, was the street here, Alameda. This was our border to the east. Washington Boulevard here was our border to the north. Broadway right here was our border to the west. Well, really Figueroa was our border to the west. And when you get down here, this was our border to the south. Imperial. And then later on, black people got into Compton down here. Well, anyway, back then, here's Central Ave. Central Avenue was right here. Central Avenue was where you had all your jazz going on. Miles Davis, John Coltrane. All your partying was done on Central Avenue right here. A lot of your business. But a greater majority of your business was done here on Broadway. Right here on Broadway. And I grew up right here off Slauson and Broadway. This intersection right here is the intersection of my childhood. What they did here on Broadway, my grandmother used to tell me this shit all the time. My grandfather bought a house in this neighborhood in 1955. They built this 110 freeway and all of these businesses right down here on Broadway. Bustling black business district. As a matter of fact, my grandparents met on Broadway. They built this 110 freeway right here. You see how these neighborhoods go? See this block? They built it right through this block, right here. Which destroyed this whole neighborhood economically on a business point of view. That's what they did with the Highway Act. And then when we go back to Reagan and Reaganomics, this is how Reaganomics destroyed black America. Y'all see this big area right here, this big business area right here, all these factories? These factories were where a lot of your auto manufacturing was back in LA. Volkswagen had an auto manufacturing plant here. And not as far as making cars, the parts to the cars. GM, Ford. A lot of those car parts were done right here in this area. So this is the area that employed black America during the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and 70s. Thank you to A. Philip Randolph. Look up A. Philip Randolph. A. Philip Randolph in 1941 went to, what's his name? In 1941, A. Philip Randolph went to Roosevelt because back then defense industry jobs were only for white people. And defense industry jobs during World War II were the best paying jobs. So in 1941, A. Philip Randolph demanded that Roosevelt integrate defense industry jobs. And a lot of your defense industry jobs are right here in this pocket right here. This is why black folks lived in South Central, because most of them worked right here in this pocket. That's when Roosevelt signed that executive order to allow black people into those jobs, which then built up this area in the 1940s, which then provided black people enough money to buy up these neighborhoods over here. Same thing over here. When you look right here, this right here was Firestone built all of their, they put all anything Firestone was created and manufactured right here. This area right here was the economic foundation of black America from 1941 through the 70s. What happened when Reagan got in office? All these jobs right here, Reagan sent these hoes to China, to Taiwan. Reaganomics sent these jobs to Mexico, to Japan. So all these places black folks had to work that was set up thankful. Thank you to A. Philip Randolph. These jobs are gone. What were these jobs replaced with? What happens when you take jobs from people? People still got to eat, right? So what do? They go to the underground economy. If I can't get a legal job, I got to eat somehow. You notice how this is right down the street from where the Crips started? Raymond Washington, founder of the Crips. Raymond Washington, founder of the Crips, was killed right here on 61st and San Pedro. Right down the street from where all the jobs used to be. So this is why your Crips get started. This is why your Crips end up turning in from what started out as community revolution in progress, protecting black people from white cops. The Crips' original function went from that to dealing drugs because all of these jobs are now gone. Thank God I have a dope grandfather. He said, fuck that. He bought us some commercial property over here that the family still controls. I'm not going to point it out for you niggas, but we own some commercial property over here. Well, not we. He owns commercial property over here that he bought in the 1960s. So here, I'm not just a nigga telling you a whole bunch of bullshit. I'm telling you what happened. I'm telling you what happened. The effect that the policy of these presidents had on black America. Let's take it one step further. NAFTA. One of President Clinton's number one policies was NAFTA. NAFTA was the North American Free Trade Agreement. The North American Free Trade Agreement. NAFTA was signature legislation that Clinton signed. Why was NAFTA so bad? NAFTA was like the cherry on top. NAFTA was all of the things that were put into place before Clinton, whether you're talking about Reaganomics, whether you're talking about the war on drugs, whether you're talking about immigration policy. NAFTA, what it did was it took the tariffs away from Canada and Mexico. So when the North American Free Trade Agreement happened, it basically was a win-win policy for the United States. And it basically fucked up Canada and Mexico's economy for a while. Because they no longer got those tariffs. So the last remaining manufacturing jobs that we had here in this country, the few jobs that didn't go to China, they went down to Mexico. I used to drive an F-150. It'll tell you, that hoe was made in Mexico. I used to also drive an Audi A6. Now my Audi was built in Germany. But its Volkswagen equivalents were built in Mexico. So they sent all those jobs down into Mexico. But what it did was, how it hurt Mexico was, Mexico no longer got that tariff money from the United States.
So since they weren't getting those taxes, it tanked Mexico's economy, sent the peso through the basement, which then forced Mexico and Mexicans to then have to relocate. Not have to, because they could have built their own, they could have rejected it and rebuilt their own country, but they didn't do that. That then influenced them to come to the United States. Are you following me here? Because NAFTA fucked up the peso so bad and their economy so bad, it opened the floodgates from Mexico to the United States. And the few jobs that were left that black people did have, it let them come over and undercut the cost of labor. Again, the same way they did with the farming in the 60s is the same thing that happened with a lot of your jobs in the 90s and the 2000s. They undercut the cost of trucking. They undercut trucking. They undercut the cost of labor in your warehouse jobs. Because now black folks are saying, I'm no longer going to do this warehouse job for $5 an hour. I want $8 an hour now. America said, oh, you want $8 an hour? Okay, NAFTA. And we're going to bring in some people who will work for $1 an hour. You see how all this shit works? How it fucked us over in tangible ways? Yet you got people talking about Trump's tweets? The whole point of this broadcast is to talk about what happened and how policy up top affects how we live and move on the bottom. There's a direct correlation between these policies and our way of life. For those of you on the Trump train, I ask you one more time. What did Trump sign into legislation that affected us anywhere near the levels of what I've brought to you today? See, when Dwan talks, when I talk, I don't say talk and believe me. I don't look for people to believe me. I don't even look for people to agree with me. I don't give a fuck if anybody agrees with me or not. Because I know that my point of view is rooted in information, not feelings. So when you have a point of view rooted in information, I'm secure enough within my point of view to be okay with anyone else's point of view. If that's what you want to think, that's what you want to think. But if you want to challenge me and what I think, you better come with some information, buddy. You better come with some information if you want to challenge me. And if you have information that challenges what I say, and I can point to the information and get something out of it, I'm down. I'm open. I'm an open-minded cat when it comes to information. You present to me some information, I'll be open-minded about reading it and analyzing it and seeing how it affects. But if the only thing you have to say is Trump encouraged white supremacy, my rebuttal to you will be, okay, what makes that any different than any of the other 45 presidents? Reagan ran on Make America Great Again. When Bush 1 ran, it was the Willie Horton scandal that put him ahead of Dukakis. Michael Dukakis was ahead in the polls in 1988. I remember, because I was 7 years old.
I've always been politically astute for some reason. Even going back to, I was born in 1981. The first election I remember was the 1988 election. Dukakis versus Bush won. And Dukakis was ahead in all the polls until the Willie Horton incident. That's when a black person got released from prison and supposedly killed some white folks. Bush one used Willie Horton as a proxy for all of black America and won that election off of Willie Horton. Clinton won an election off being tough on crime. Code word for tough on the Negroes. And you want to tell me Trump is the worst? Get the fuck out of here. See, look. One thing about me, I'm a good-hearted person. I'm very kind-hearted, but I'm also a Gemini. As kind-hearted as I am, I don't give a fuck either. And the primary people I don't give a fuck about are the people who don't think. If you just repeat cliches and just say things to say them, I have no issues with offending these people. Because they offend me and insult my intelligence by requiring me to believe what they say and not take the time to learn something and put something in their fucking head. I don't mind offending people who don't take time to think. Fuck your feelings. And fuck anyone who told you your feelings matter. The only person your feelings matter to is your mama and your children. Your parents. Those are the only people who care about your feelings. When we talk politics, we are talking business, people. This is business. This is business. And no, I'm not caping for Trump. I'm just putting Trump in his proper context. Trump was somebody who ran his mouth and his thumbs. Trump as a president was lazy as hell. Extremely, extremely lazy. He was definitely lazier than Biden. Because Biden is the one that came out and said transgender rights are the civil rights issue of his presidency. And he's backed that up with all that legislation. Biden right now is talking about signing anti-Asian legislation. And when they sign new laws, we all know who that's going to come after. It's going to come after us as black people. How do we know that? Because all of the laws to stop any level of discrimination already exist. They're already on the book. The 14th Amendment, the 5th Amendment. They're already on the books. So when they get to signing all these quote unquote new laws, that's just new ways to criminalize black people. Understand the game, people. Understand the game being played. Even to my Latino brothers and sisters and non-foundational black Americans, understand that you part of this chess game too. They brought you in because what happens if you playing a game of chess? Oh hell, checkers, dominoes, spades, go fish. Where you choose the game: football, basketball, baseball, boxing. What happens when one side understands the history and the moves of the other side, while the other side never takes time studying the history and moves of his opponent. Who's going to have the matchup? Who's going to win the matchup? No matter how, you may be more physically dominant. You may be able to run faster, jump higher. But if you don't know the other team's playbook, you are going to lose if they know yours. They know your playbook. You don't know theirs. Who's going to win that game? If you know every time you play dominoes, somebody's going to start with big six and they're going to go for the points every time they have a domino in their hand. If you're a good domino player, if you're a dominologist like myself, oh, this is the kind of motherfucker that go for the score all day. All right, cool. I'm going to make sure I'm going to put a 5 outward. I'm going to let that nigga score 10. But when he lets his 5s loose, I'm going to block. He's going to get this 10. But I'm going to block every single move he makes next. Because I know every time he lays a domino out there, he's looking for points. He's not looking to control the game, the strategy, and to get to the end game of scoring 150 or 200 wherever you go. I then know how to set my domino pieces up to make sure you don't score. Not only make sure you don't score, I'm going to make sure you pull from the boneyard every time because I know what your ass is going to do. That's how a nigga that play dominoes plays the game. If I'm playing basketball and I know that every time you get in triple threat, if you go right, you're going to the basket. If you go left, you're pulling up for a jump shot. If I know that, as a coach, I know to set my defense to, okay, let's shade him to the right, and then we're going to send help, and we're going to move the help off of the worst shooter on the floor. So when he does pass to that shooter, he's probably going to break. Kind of what Golden State did to Kevin Durant in the 2016 playoffs. We're going to help off Andre Roberson because we know this nigga can't shoot. We know Kevin Durant likes to pull up mid-range. That's what you do when you know the other team's moves. You then can game plan accordingly. That's how the game is played against us. They know how we move. But we don't spend any time studying them. So people always want to say, oh man, black people, we smart. We this. And we are smart. We are great. But don't none of that shit matter if you don't study your opponent. Can you dig it? Can you dig it? I was watching The Warriors the other day. The movie. Can you dig it? The Warriors was a good movie. The Warriors showed y'all how when the people come together under a leader, all they got to do is take the leader out to start the shit again. That's why black folks, another strategy we got to have. That's why I always say, man, fuck that leader shit. Ain't no goddamn leaders. And don't make me a leader. I ain't no goddamn leader. Hell no, I ain't no leader. I'm a leader of myself and my family. You are the leader. You are your leader. I'm just here to talk about the playbook that they use against us. That's how the game is played against us. See, black people, we don't have to agree on anything. Black people are never going to agree on everything. Let's just tell the truth about that. We are the oldest people here on the planet. We've been on this planet for millions of years. We're never going to agree on everything. No humans agree on. White people don't agree on anything. Only thing that they agree on is, only thing that white folks agree with is they know to put their swords down on each other when a black person walks in a room. White people shoot each other, they kill each other, they undermine each other, they fuck each other over. They just know to sit it down for 2 seconds when we're around. And then when we leave, they go back to doing their bullshit. The only thing black people need is a code of empowerment. Empower yourself. And once you empower yourself, you're going to automatically come around those who are about empowering the group. It's cool. You can have black conservative. That's why white folks can have Republicans, Democrats, libertarians, all these different independents, small I, big I. White people got 1 million political parties. They got 1 million religions. Protestant, Catholic. They got 1 million different economic systems. Socialism, capitalism, communism. White folks are different than a motherfucker. They just agreed that to settle to not fight each other for 2 or 3 minutes, long enough to distract us as black people, and then they go back to fighting one another and disagreeing amongst one another. White folks ain't special. They just have a code that they've built in over the last 400 years. That's all. You don't need leaders. You don't need to come together. You don't need to get together. You need a code of conduct, a personal code of conduct, and a cultural code of conduct. That's all you need. That's all you need. White people don't like each other. Again, study the history of Europe. It's a history of war. White folks will cut their nose off to spite their face. The reason why Trump got in as president and Mitt Romney didn't was because Mitt Romney's a fucking Mormon. White people don't like Mormons. It don't matter what Mitt Romney's ideas was. He was a Mormon. White folks would rather a degenerate like Donald Trump run the country than Mitt Romney because Mitt Romney was a Mormon. Them motherfuckers don't like each other. That's a good point, Rob McCoy. Our code must not involve established gatekeepers. That's a good point. That's a good point. Because a lot of people are looking for the celebrity that's going to help enforce our code. I guarantee you that won't come from the celebrities. That's going to come from the bottom. That's going to come from us. And we'll get the celebrities in line. But the celebrities got to listen to us. That's how our code gets put in. By us. Bottom up. So remember that, people. We are our own solution. We have the solution. We are the solution. But it starts with telling the truth. We gotta tell the truth. We gotta tell the truth. Let me say it again. We have to tell the truth. We have to tell the truth. Black people, we're incredible, man. I mean, for real, for real. Think about this. We live in a country that we built. We went through slavery. We've been recategorized. We've been moved off of our native indigenous lands. We've been imported from Africa and the Caribbean. Because the slave trade was very complicated. It wasn't no one thing. They enslaved indigenous Americans, native to this land. They would capture them in Michigan, put them on the Mississippi River, and sell them off to a plantation in Alabama and Arkansas. They imported some from Africa, about 400,000. But they also imported some from Haiti, Santo Domingo. And then for the rest of us that were here, they would move us around different plantations, breaking up our family continuity. And out of slavery, and in those 12 years during Reconstruction, we still rebuilt our shit. They destroyed it. We rebuilt it again. And one thing that we got to talk about, and I would love to, one day I got to see if I can reach out. We just became Facebook friends. I got to see if I can get an interview with Dr. Oba Tashaka. He has a book where he talks about how right now we're dealing with, and I'm going to do a whole broadcast on this book when I read it. I just haven't been reading much lately because I read a lot. I go through reading binges. I binge read. I'll read 6 books in a week and then not read for like 6 months. I read 6 books between January 1st and January 20th, and I ain't picked up shit since. But I do want to pick up some of Dr. Oba Tashaka's work and read it again because he talks about how we've been dealing with the post-civil rights hostile forces era. And this era that Black Americans have been dealing with, some people call it Jim Crow 2.0. Dr. Oba Tashaka call it the post-civil rights hostile forces era. This has been one of the most evil eras that Black people have ever dealt with. We don't even understand how what we're going through right now, what we've gone through since the civil rights legislation has been signed, has been a much more devious and deadly America than even during Jim Crow. Let me say that again. The era that Black Americans are living through right now, post-civil rights legislation, has been the most evil and the most deadly, even more so than Jim Crow. Because during Jim Crow, we clearly knew who our enemy was. During Jim Crow, we had our own neighborhoods. During Jim Crow, we fed ourselves. We had our own supply chain link throughout this nation. We had a green book. We know where we can go to find friends that were the same color as us. I was talking to my grandfather on his birthday a couple weeks ago, and I asked him, what's changed? We've had a Black president. We've had so-called civil rights legislation. What's changed since 1937 when you were 13 years old and your mom decided to move from Grace, Mississippi to Los Angeles, California? My grandfather said, ain't a damn thing changed but the color of the neighborhood. It was white when I moved here. It was black for about 40 years. Now it's Mexican. And the white people are moving back. That's what my 97-year-old grandfather said, who voted for Roosevelt. He voted for Eisenhower, Kennedy, LBJ. And he told me the last time he voted was for Nixon. That's when he realized this shit was all bullshit. And then they say things changed in the civil rights. According to my 97-year-old grandfather, hell no, they haven't. And then when you look at what's been going, what have we been dealing with in the post-civil rights hostile forces era? We've had to deal with immigration. We're no longer the number 2 population. We've had to deal with people coming from outside this country, taking the jobs that we fought for. We've had to deal with this whole LGBT trans movement, taking the laws that we fought for for their gains. We've had corporations who's used the 13th, 14th Amendment to help and further their cause more than it's helped ours. We've had to deal with crack epidemic. We've had to deal with mass incarceration. We've had to deal with everything that because they talk about lynchings during Jim Crow. Well, the only people getting lynched during Jim Crow were your business owners. Which was, one lynching was one too many. I'm not here to minimize that. But since Jim Crow, the police couldn't just come out and shoot the way they're shooting us now. That didn't happen back then. Killing us on camera. We not only have to deal with white supremacists, we have to deal with Asian white supremacists. We got to deal with Latino white supremacists. We got to deal with non-foundational Black American white supremacists. Niggas is as black as an onyx, but think white. We got a lot of factors that previous generations didn't have to worry about, while living under a government that's every bit as hell-bent on undermining us now as they were before these other factors came into play. Yes, our numbers are underreported. That's true. Rob, yes, our numbers are underreported. But truth is, we still got to deal with all of these other groups that weren't here. So I'm here to say, people, we've dealt with the worst. 4 years of Trump, and you saw these other groups and these liberal-minded white supremacists blow a fucking head gasket. These other groups have been Trump, 4 years of Trump tweets. Let's think about this. Look at what 4 years of Trump tweets did to the psyche of Asians, non-foundational Black Americans, white liberals. They couldn't handle 4 years of tweets. I've only given you Cliff Note versions of what these presidents have done to us. I didn't go into Hoover. I didn't go into LBJ. Hell, I didn't go all the way into Reagan and Bush. I've only given you Cliff Notes, people. I didn't go into George Washington, Thomas Jefferson. I didn't go into Truman or Calvin Coolidge, bitch ass. It's a lot I could have said about Calvin Coolidge. I didn't go into William Howard Taft and McKinley. I didn't go into Grover Cleveland. I dare you to look up Rutherford B. Hayes, James Buchanan, James Polk, John Tyler. And did you know that John Tyler, president of the United States of America from 1841 to 1845, do you know that he has grandkids that are still fucking living? I didn't go into Adams and Monroe and Van Buren. We've dealt with 46 of these jackasses. Yet we got these other groups crying over one. That all the fuck he did was tweet. Do you know that Gaddafi in 1995, through the Nation of Islam, was ready to give $5 billion to black Americans for business development and education and childcare? $5 billion. Clinton said no. So Gaddafi said, okay, cool, I'll give him $1 billion. Clinton said no. A sitting United States president turned down money that was being offered to black Americans. At the same time, he was creating a drug laws and a law that would disproportionately incarcerate black Americans. Thank you, Brandon, for the Cash App. Brandon, Lisa. Thank y'all for the Cash App. I appreciate it. Because I put all this shit right back into the show. Let me tell you something else Clinton did. Clinton signed the 1996 Telecommunications Act, which basically killed black radio. Because before the Telecommunications Act, you couldn't own national radio and local radio. That's why radio was good before 96. For those of us old enough to remember, y'all remember back in the 90s how good radio was and how by the time we got to the year 2000, 2001, radio started to like really suck. That's because with that Telecommunication Act, it allowed Clear Channel, Sinclair Media, and these groups to then buy up all the local radio stations, which harmed black people's ability to communicate to one another and showcase local artists and local talent. It made everything national, which basically kicked all the black radio DJs off the radio. You ever ask yourself, why do all the hip hop and old school black stations, why are all the DJs Mexicans? You may have one black DJ on a radio station now, but when it comes to playing our music, you got Asians, Mexicans, and white people playing our fucking music. They didn't have to deal with that shit in Jim Crow. We do. I'm here to talk about why Trump wasn't so bad. It's not giving Trump any extra credit. Fuck Trump. It ain't about that. It is not about giving Trump any credit. It's about putting Trump in his proper perspective. It's about putting Trump, placing him properly in the hierarchy of degenerates that have run this country. They're all degenerates. Ain't none of them shit. Fuck them all. Fuck Trump. But Trump wasn't shit on what we as a people have had to go through when dealing with these sorry ass presidents. Thank you for the Cash App, Jermaine. Appreciate that. There's a hierarchy of degenerates. And Trump's not in the top 20. Hell, Trump may not be in the top 40. He's still a degenerate. But when it comes to his relationship, when it comes to presidents' relationships with Black America, Trump is not top 20. Easily. He's not in the top 20. He ain't got shit on William McKinley. He ain't got shit on Taft. He ain't got a goddamn thing on Richard Nixon. Let's tell the truth. Now these other groups, these liberal whites, these other groups, they're going to try to get you to talk about how bad, because Trump has been very bad for them. One thing I like about Trump, and I said this shit before Trump even took office. Trump is a wart. See, this country has always done this to people. But they'd always have a president that looks presidential, had on a nice suit, spoke well, lied well. Trump behaved like all presidents act. Let me say this shit one more time. Trump's behavior was an illustration of how those who occupy the White House act. They come to you with a good speech while bombing countries. They come to you with a smile while undermining other countries with shit like NAFTA. They come saying, hey, we all need to come together in love and peace like Clinton, while signing laws that disproportionately harm Black people. All those Trump tweets and vile things he would say were just reflective of how this country works and operates. You gonna tell me a Trump tweet is worse for people than Woodrow Wilson saying Black people can no longer work these jobs because they're Black? Is Trump's tweets worse than Franklin Delano Roosevelt saying we're going to have a new deal, but we're going to sign this new deal for everyone that works in industries that Black people can't get in? Is Trump's tweets worse than Dwight Eisenhower saying that I'm going to build all these freeways through Black neighborhoods? Is Trump's tweets worse than George W. Bush running on Willie Horton? See, y'all talk about Trump taking out an ad about the Central Park Five when Bush ran a whole presidency on Willie Horton. Trump's tweets are worse than the war on drugs? Nigga, what? Huh? Trump's tweets are worse than William McKinley turning his back on Wilmington, 1898. Black people won the mayor, city council, state houses. Couple days later, white mob comes down, overthrows the local government, shoots and kills black people running out of town. All this happened on William McKinley's watch. A whole local government being voted for by the people, overthrown by white people, while William McKinley sat there and did nothing. As a matter of fact, William McKinley, after the white folks overthrew that black government, it was McKinley that came and said, okay, we don't want to deal with this shit no more. So instead of punishing white people, we're just going to make it harder for black people to vote. We're going to take the power for black people to vote away. So we no longer have to deal with white mobs overthrowing whatever political establishment black people elected. You going to tell me Trump is worse than that? Black people, we are winners. We are winners. Let me say that again. We, black people, are winners. Because in spite of everything that I've talked about today, we still here. We're still the culture of America. We're the swag of America. We're the brains of America. We're the morality of America. And no matter how many people they import here to dilute our influence, we still the most influential motherfuckers on this land. It's a reason why the world watches basketball and football and not NASCAR and swimming. Because nobody give a fuck about what they doing. They look at us. We still here and we still winning. I'm not here to talk to the people who, now we all have our degenerates. We do. We have our degenerate society, but look, I don't talk to the degenerates. The hood rats and the degenerates, they got all the Cardi B, WAP, regular mainstream TV, BET, MTV. They can listen to Tommy Sotomayor and all they got that shit that they can listen to. I'm not worried about them. I'm here to talk to the people who have a willing ear to listen and those who, if they're not on code, at least want to be on code. Because we don't need everybody. You only need a critical mass. If we get on code with our political organization, with our political thinking, if we get on code with our finances, the rest of those followers are going to fall in line. Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Somebody said Tommy's not that bad. Ooh. Tommy's not that bad. What? People who go around showing the worst of black society ain't that bad? Okay. I'm not going to highlight who said Tommy Sotomayor ain't that bad. No, yes he is. He's poison. He was talking shit about us on Craig Facts after the Corey Holcomb episode. He was talking all kind of shit. Did I acknowledge him? No. Why would I? Why? No, I did not acknowledge him and what he said. Because he ain't shit. The moon don't bark to the dog. My book, No Time to Waste. I've actually was working on it before I started this broadcast. It's for the most part done. Like I said, I'm going to have my book is coming out soon, No Time to Waste, a self-motivation guidebook. I will be offering a workshop on the book itself. The workshop probably going to be like 3 or 4 hours long, or I might break it up into 2 different workshops. It'll be very cheap. It won't be expensive at all. But the book, No Time to Waste, a self-motivation guidebook, is for those of you who know you have shit in your head that you want to get done, need to get done, but can't quite figure out how to get it done or how to get started. I wrote a book to help you because I was once in that position of knowing what I wanted to do, but not quite knowing how to get it done. Not quite having the motivation to get it started, to get it moving. So I wrote a book that's going to help people based off my experience. Not me theorizing some shit. This is what I actually did. And there are tools that I've learned over helping other people through my career as a relationship coach on self-governing and self-motivation. So I wrote a book on that. And I'm also offering a workshop for those who want to get on code with themselves. If you're interested in the workshop, you can email hotepish@gmail.com or info@breakthroughas.org or hotepish@gmail.com. The links are in the description. I got my sample packs coming out soon on the drums. My link tree is in the description for that. And I got my t-shirts for sale. I fear I may have integrated my people into a burning house. MLK. Black people don't owe anybody anything but an ass whooping. Dr. John Henry Clark. My scholar shirt, Fuller, Clark, Wellington, Serta Benyakini. Get yours right now at hotepish.com/apparel. I am here to help my people and to love my people. My name is Dwan B. Remember this. There are no perfect messengers. Only perfect messages for those who are willing to pick up game. Black people, we've already won. We've already won. We just got to realize it. We've overcome Tilden, Hayes, Bush, Clinton, and I didn't even get into Obama and all the black people that got killed under his watch that he didn't do shit about. Bitch ass nigga. We survived Gerald Ford. We've already won. Remember that. Anytime someone wants to make it seem like Trump is the big bad boogeyman, remember, we have already won. Now it's time for us to live like it. My name is Dwan B.
Thank y'all again for joining us. We out.